Thank you, sir. And last letter of intent is from Pure EV, Mr. Rohit Vadra. Please come over. They will be setting up a two-wheeler plant in Telangana. Uber का क्या है? They'll be coming here?
Yeah, they are here.
Mr. Marathi. Sir, we also have Uber team here, so who will be making an announcement. Are they here? Please come over. They'll just make a brief announcement and then we'll move on to the next.
Good morning to all. At the outset, let me take this opportunity to thank Honorable Minister for IT, Mr. KTR Garu, Honorable Transport Minister, Mr. Ajay Puvada Garu, and all Mr. Jayesh Ranjan and Sunil Sharma Garu. Let me vouch for the fact that we've gone through multiple electric vehicle policies, and by far this is one of the most comprehensive policy and progressive policies we've seen. We at Uber profoundly believe that sustainable transportation can only be achieved by transitioning cleaner fuels to public transport, and our endeavor in this is to support commercial adoption of vehicles by partnering with OEMs, fleet partners and charging infrastructure stations. As of today on Uber, we have around 500 plus electric vehicles which have traveled more than 30 lakh kilometers across India, and recently we've forged a partnership with Lithium Urban Technologies to onboard another 1,000 electric vehicles across Hyderabad, Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai and Pune. We are also in advanced conversations with OEMs in Hyderabad for the electric auto pilot. In fact, we believe that electric autos could be a perfect catalyst in increased public transport adoption by supplementing the first and last mile transport from public transport network that we've built out in Hyderabad. Additionally, a single window time-bound permit grant process will provide a positive nudge towards increased adoption of electric vehicles. In our recent global sustainability event, which was held a month back, we identified electric vehicles and multimodal transport as the key pillars for sustainability in public transport. In view of this, we've recently launched public transport journey planning in Hyderabad in collaboration with L&T Metro. This tool allows citizens to view estimated time, cost and directions from public metros in the Uber app. So once again, I take this opportunity to thank everyone present here, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have the MOU signing with ARAI, in which Mr. M.B. Marathi, Director of ARAI, will be signing from Pune, and Mr. Sujay Karampuri will be signing on behalf of the Telangana government. The signed copy from our side is already with Mr. Marathi and the team, and they have sent their signed copy, which we shall sign now in the presence of the Honorable Ministers and the Principal Secretaries. Thank you so much, Marathi sir and team from ARI, and thank you so much, Sujay sir. And next, we would now moving on to, we should continue with our proceedings. I would now request Honorable Minister for Transport, Shri Ajay Kumar Garu, to deliver his perspective.
Honorable Minister for Information Technology, MAUD and Industries, Sri K.T. Ramarao Garu, Honorable Minister for Endowment and Forests, Sri Indakaran Reddy Garu, Principal Secretary, IT and Industries, Sri J.S. Ranjan Garu, Principal Secretary Transport, Sri Sunil Sharma Garu, the dignitaries who are attending this policy launching program physically and virtually, my dear friends, I first of all feel privileged to share this dais with our dynamic and young K.T.R. Ramarao Garu, who in fact is the face of technology and face of change of this new state of Telangana in India. He is the brain behind the changes and the reforms in Telangana. When you take the first policy of TS I-Pass, which has come, and later he has recently came up with TS B-Pass, and today, with his great efforts and initiation, the Telangana Electric Vehicle and Energy Storage Policy 2020 to 2030 is being launched. Practically, the Transport Department right now has got the details of, as on 27/10/2020, a total of 5,431 electric vehicles are being registered in Telangana, consisting of mainly 4,292 motorcycles, 491 motor cabs, 194 e-rickshaws and e-carts, and 40 TSRTC electric buses. With this policy which is being launched with the initiation of our great leader, K.T. Ramarao Garu, the main focus and the end user's interest would be what would be the benefits if they go for the electric vehicles purchase. On behalf of the Transport Department, we are proposing in this policy the incentives as follows: that 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for the first 2 lakh electric two-wheelers purchased and registered in Telangana. Similarly, for the 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for first 20,000 electric three-wheelers purchased and registered within Telangana, retrofitment incentive at 15% of the retrofitment cost capped at rupees 15,000 per vehicle for first 5,000 retrofit three-seater auto rickshaws in Telangana. Financing institutions shall be encouraged to provide a hire purchase scheme at discounted interest rates. And incentives for the electric four-wheeler commercial passenger vehicles such as taxis, tourist cabs, etc. 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee will be offered for the first 5,000 electric four-wheeler commercial passenger vehicles such as taxis, tourist cabs, and purchased and registered within Telangana. Also, the incentives is being offered to light good carriers including three-wheelers, 100% exemption of the road tax and the registration fee for the first 10,000 electric three-wheeler goods, e-carriers as well as electric light good carriers purchased and registered within Telangana. Also, 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for the first 5,000 electric four-wheeler private vehicles purchased and registered within Telangana. And finally, the 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for the 500 electric buses first purchased and registered within Telangana. State transport units shall also be encouraged to purchase electric buses. Already we have 40 electric buses which are plying to the airport. We will also take into consideration of increasing the number of electric buses as far as of the Road Transport Corporation is also concerned. The tractors, which also would be encouraged in giving exemption of taxes, both under road tax and the registration fee, as and when the electric tractors are launched. Now, with these incentives from the department, there is another policy matter which has also to be relaxed, is the GOMS number 137 and GOMS number 14, which were imposing restrictions on the three-wheelers, auto rickshaws, the replacement and the restrictions GOs, which are to be relaxed and which is under the process. With this, as far as my transport department is concerned, a whopping of few hundred crores of exemptions will be offered to the end users by doing this. Now, our request is that these benefits should be passed on to the end user, and the manufacturers are requested from our department and from the government to be more liberal in fixing the prices of the electrical vehicles in all sectors, like that is the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and the commercial and non-commercial four-wheeler vehicles. And I profusely thank Sri K.T. Ramarao Garu for making me part of this policy and inviting me to this, and I really feel privileged to launch this policy along with him. Thanks for the opportunity given to me, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wise words. We now move on to the next event. I would now request Honorable Minister Sri K.T. Ramarao Garu to come and give a special address.
Very good morning to all of you. Honorable Minister Transport Sri Puwada Ajay Kumar Garu, Honorable Minister for Forest, Environment, Science and Technology, Endowments and Law, Sri Indra Karan Reddy Garu, Honorable Principal Secretary of Roads and Buildings and Transport, Sri Sunil Sharma Garu, Honorable Principal Secretary, Industry and IT, Sri Jayesh Ranjan Garu, TSIC MD Garu, Narasimha Reddy Garu, TS Redco MD Janay Garu, to all the participants, who've just signed memorandums of understanding with the government of Telangana, and to all the friends in the gathering here, a warm welcome to all of you. Before I go into my formal speech, I would also like to acknowledge my bad. We live in a virtual reality kind of situation today, so I forgot to acknowledge Sri Pavan Goenka, who's joined us, especially the chairman, CEO of Mahindra Group, and Sri Sunil Mehta ji of the Yes Bank Group, and Srimati Anna Roy from Niti Aayog. Thank you, madam, for joining us. And please do convey to Mr. Amitabh Kant that we missed him. Before I go into my formal speech, I just wanted to say one thing quickly. I was talking to a friend of mine, after seeing what's been happening around the world, during this pandemic, how nature was healing itself, and I was getting all these videos on social media, how nature really is healing and how the world is so much of a better place, without humans kind of killing whatever we've been doing, inflicting all the damage we've done. One of the things a very learned and a very, knowledgeable friend of mine said, I said, what is the solution going forward as from a government perspective? What do we do to make sure that, we help our environment, we pass on a better planet to our children? What do we do? He said something very, very interesting. He said, follow the 3D mantra. I said, what is that? And he said, first thing, focus on decarbonization. Second, focus even more on digitization. And thirdly, focus also on decentralization. Now, I don't need to explain to any of you in this room, decarbonization or digitization. I think you all know it rather well. Now, what did he mean by decentralization? I think what he meant was, see, I also wear the other hat of Minister for Urban Development and Municipal Administration. One of the biggest challenges I face in that ministry is the rapid urbanization and suburbanization that is sweeping our nation. Today, Telangana, in fact, is one of the most urbanized states in India. We're almost 43-44% urban population. And in about 5 to 7 years, in fact, majority of Telangana would be living in urban areas and minority would be living in rural areas. That's the reality. Now, how do we address this? Why do people migrate? Why do people urbanize? People urbanize in search of better livelihoods, in search of better Medicare facilities, in search of better education facilities. So what this learned friend of mine meant was decentralize. While we can't completely contain urbanization, at least we can hope for suburbanization in a structured, planned way. Create more counter-magnets, create more integrated townships, ensure that people actually move further away, create more economic clusters around the city of Hyderabad, as was pointed out by Mr. Goenka. While Mahatma Gandhi was right when he said, India lives in its villages, the fact today, after 75 years of independence, is India is run by its cities. Today, our cities have become the epicenters of economic activity. Today, for instance, if you take the example of Hyderabad, nearly 50% of state GSDP comes from our capital city. Nearly 50% of Telangana's GSDP is contributed by Hyderabad. So therefore, it's extremely important to conserve, to preserve, and to ensure that the economic vitality our cities offer remains intact if we are to grow into a 5 trillion economy, as our Honorable Prime Minister keeps alluding to, or if we really have to get into the league of developed first world countries, as we all combinedly dream of every so often. Now, how do we achieve that? How do we go about doing it? Recently, there was floods in Hyderabad. We all know that. Cloud bursts, climate changes, unseasonal rains are not only affecting urban denizens, they're also affecting our farmers. They're also affecting people across the world. Now, one of the nicest things and one of the most interesting things I've heard today from the previous speakers was sustainable mobility. You know, we talk about sustainable energy all the time. But today I heard Pawan Goenka mention about sustainable mobility. He also talked about shared mobility. Now, these are the things I think our cities today need if we really have to ensure that we preserve their fabric, we preserve their growth momentum, and we grow into a league of first world country in years to come, years that lie ahead of us. Now, having said that, I believe what has been accomplished is very little, but what lies ahead, the road that lies ahead in terms of ensuring that we get there with respect to sustainable energy and also sustainable mobility is going to be an arduous, is going to be a difficult journey, but I think with all stakeholders participating, governments in cities, governments in state, government in Delhi, and also, when I say Delhi, I don't mean Kejriwal, I mean Government of India, and also all stakeholders, the private sector, the startups, the large OEMs, the aggregators, all of us working together, I think will be, therein lies the real success of this policy launch today. Of course, as was pointed out by my friends earlier, Telangana in fact has come out with an extremely comprehensive policy. It does not talk about electric vehicles in itself. We also have ensured that the energy storage policy is dovetailed with our electric vehicle policy, because these are two extremely tight-knit ideas which need to work together cohesively. Now, I'm also delighted that two very important ministers and their are seated on the dais. For this electric vehicle policy to be successful, I think these three ministries need to work together very, very closely. One is, of course, to promote investments, to promote innovation, industry and IT ministry, which is represented by myself and Jayesh Ranjan. We need to be working closely with our colleagues to ensure that electric vehicles are adopted and people actually lap them up. We need to work closely with Honorable Minister for Transport and his secretary, and to ensure that whatever we do remains in consonance with environment. We need the support of Honorable Minister for Environment, Science and Technology. So the fact that Telangana government has not only thought this through in terms of policy, but also in terms of ensuring that the policy is enforced effectively, implemented effectively, we brought out all stakeholders, and this multi-stakeholder engagement, I believe, will lead to a very successful implementation of this policy that our state has come out with. As I pointed out, Hyderabad is today our capital city, and it is the epicenter of our economic activity. This city today, in fact, I urge not only Mr. Pawan Goenka and to every electric vehicle manufacturer in the city, our dream today, in fact, as we launch this policy, is to make great strides of progress in electric vehicle adoption and also make our city and our state the epicenter of electric vehicle manufacturing and adoption. Now, I offer the city of Hyderabad as a test case for all electric vehicle manufacturers to come and work with us. Come and work with our Hyderabad Metro Rail. Come and work with our MMTS. Come and work with our RTC and see how together we can explore better public transportation solutions, better shared mobility solutions with our aggregators, Uber, Ola, and many others out there. We could work together jointly to ensure that more and more people are taken away from their private vehicles, which are gas guzzlers today, to these wonderful vehicles which are environmental friendly. The state is already, in fact, one of the leaders in sustainable energy production. We've made, as I pointed out, when we started our journey about 6 years ago, we only had 45 megawatts of solar energy being produced from our state. But today, I'm delighted to share with you that we are number 2 in the country with more than 4,100 megawatts of solar energy production in a very, very short span of time. That goes to show you the commitment of our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao Garu, to renewable energy, to sustainable energy solutions. And we are looking to also, of course, ramp up all possible energy solutions, especially on the sustainable front. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, in fact, I'm delighted today that we've signed about 5 MOUs, not only with manufacturers, but also some regulatory authorities. Our manufacturing sector today, in fact, in Telangana, is, in spite of the fact that we have, someone like Mahindra manufacturing nearly 150,000 tractors, a large OEM from their Zahirabad plant. And I'm delighted, Pawanji, thank you very much if you're listening in, on making the announcement that you're going to bring in the electric tractor with all Japanese technology, and it would be manufactured out of Zahirabad. It's a matter of pride that, the largest, tractor manufacturing facility in Asia today, which is based in Zahirabad, will also start manufacturing electric tractors. I'm sure the farmers in our country would look forward and will surely lap up the advancements that you guys are making in electric tractors as well. Our policy is comprehensive, and therefore today I'm delighted we have Olectra, Mitra, Gayam, and other ETUs, and others who have signed ETRIO, have signed MOUs with us. Our policy does not limit itself, though, to electric vehicle manufacturers only. Our incentives, our policy incentives, will also be extended to charging stations, and also battery manufacturers. And I'm delighted that we are receiving several players and several proposals with intent to set up charging stations and also storage solutions. Now, I also wanted to quickly point out 2 things. Like I said, a cohesive approach between departments, between the various facets of my ministry, that is the industry and commerce, also need to be in place if we have to make a EV policy a truly successful policy. So therefore, let me share with you that in our state today, we have the largest electronics manufacturing cluster. If you look at them in a combined way, we have more than 1,000 acres of land available at our disposal. One is E-City in Raviryal and another one in Maheshwaram. Between the 2 of them, we have 1,000 acres of land at our disposal for electronics manufacturers. Likewise, we also have a huge NIMZ, the National Investment Manufacturing Zone, based out of Zahirabad, where I already mentioned that Mahindra's, one of the largest OEMs of our country, has a significant plant. We would like to promote it as an automobile cluster and ensure that more than 1,000 acres again are allotted for any automaker who would want to come into our state and work with us so as to ensure a complete comprehensive ecosystem of OEM, supply chain can coexist together in one single location. And also, I'm happy to announce 2 clusters, 2 industrial clusters. One in the Chandanvalli Sitarampur cluster in Shabad in Rangareddy district, which is already attracting significant investment and which is where I think both Olectra and Mitra are setting up their plants. will shape up into a EV cluster, and also another very important cluster in Divitipalli in Mehboob will also be developed as another new energy park, new energy and new EV cluster. Likewise, we also plan, in fact, to develop a mobility cluster, which I will be announcing soon, possibly sometime next month. We have, again, a number of very interesting technology players and also auto manufacturers who are coming together for the first time in creating this mobility cluster. So this approach of having an automobile cluster, an electronics cluster, an EV cluster, and also a mobility cluster, I think would provide that comprehensive ground for anybody who's interested in electric vehicle space to make Telangana their hub and look nowhere else, no further, for their enterprise and entrepreneurial ideas when it comes to setting up base in India. We will continue, like I said, through TSI Pass and other very progressive initiatives under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister to continue to attract manufacturing and also continue to focus on expanding our research ecosystem through a collaborative effort with the private sector and also the wonderful academic institutions we have. Let me also remind you that Hyderabad, in fact, has a significant base of electronics companies in the form of ECIL, and I'm not talking now, I'm talking legacy. ECIL, BEL, in fact, HAL, and all of these companies, all of these large public sector undertakings, which are having a significant presence in Hyderabad, have shaped up the ecosystem. And there is a large, small and medium entrepreneurial ecosystem that already exists, which will again propel our drive and our ambition to be the leading EV and leading electrified state in the country, as a leader, in fact. And let me just give you some broad statistics. When the world economy and India's economy also, in fact, has not been doing very well for the last more than a few quarters. In fact, as you all may remember, even before Corona hit us, I think the last 8 quarters preceding, the pandemic, also we have seen slowdown across the country. But fortunately for us in Telangana, our annual GSDP growth rate has been consistent. We've been growing at a breakneck speed, and we've been growing at a much, much rapid pace than any other state in the country at 14.2% over the last 5 years. We are consistently ranked as among the top 3 states in the country on the ease of doing business rankings. We have slipped a slot this year, but we'll bounce back, I'm sure. And our TSI Pass, which is a landmark single window clearance system, has been instrumental in bringing more than $28 billion of investment in the last 5 years. Telangana continues to remain number 2 as a city and state in IT software exports, but our growth rate has been substantially higher than the national growth rate. In fact, while the country has been growing at about 8%, we've been growing at about 18%, which goes to show you that our growth momentum has not slipped. We've also recently added many EV-related technology firms, such as ZF Automotive and Electronics, ZF Automotive, and electronics firms such as Oppo, Vivo, Skyworth, Intel, Micron. All of them today are having significant presence in our city. Our innovation ecosystem is second to none, with important players in important institutions such as RICH, the Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad, TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge, soon to be coming up T-Works, and of course T-Hub, which is widely known. We intend to leverage our strengths in electronics, aerospace and defense, and information technology sectors, creating synergies, thereby developing as a center for research and innovation for all electric vehicles, battery technologies, and other emerging technologies such as autonomous and connected vehicles. We have taken a pragmatic approach in drafting this policy. We've consulted the industry. We've also discussed with various other public policy institutions, and I guarantee that if we meet the initial numbers, because there might be a concern that the numbers that we've showcased in this policy are on the lower side in terms of adoption. I promise you one thing, that if we meet the initial numbers, I shall go back to the Cabinet and plead with Honorable Chief Minister to further increase the numbers and extend incentives to as many people who adopt to these electric vehicles as possible. As I pointed out, I think the key departments, Transport Department, of course, plays a very important role in regulatory and adoption of EVs. I request the Honorable Transport Minister and Transport Secretary to work with us closely, and let's work together in ensuring that this becomes a success. Energy Department also needs to take measures to make charging easily available. I'm glad that they are represented here by Mr. Janaya, who will ensure, but TS Redco will also set up a lot of charging stations. MA and UD, of course, which is also under my supervision, will ensure all regulatory approvals and setting up of necessary infrastructure with respect to our charging stations that we will be setting up in metro stations and elsewhere. Will also be in parking lots also will be, factored and will be given whatever incentives are required to make it sustainable. We're also, as I pointed out, planning to establish public charging stations at airports, railway stations, metro stations, parking lots, bus depots, markets, fuel stations, malls, etc. And I request all charging station players to come forward and work with us. And we're not exclusive to anyone. We will be open. We will work with, all the leading players in the industry in a very transparent fashion. And we look forward to working closely with you. We're already establishing 178 charging stations in Telangana. And the state already, as was pointed out by Honorable Transport Minister, has a fleet of buses plying through TSRTC. We're currently engaging with ARAI, with whom we've just signed an MOU, to collectively work towards promoting research and development for manufacturing of electric vehicle and energy storage systems. Because looking forward, as was pointed out by Anna Roy, India needs to find its own solutions. We cannot be aping the West. We cannot be aping any other country with respect to EVs, because our situation is very different. Our people are very different. Our approach to our roads, our approach to our urban planning, our approach to adoption of technology is very different when compared to other countries and other parts of the world. We believe that the EV adoption would increase more and more since the policy just rolled out today, as was pointed out again by my previous speakers. While Government of India may have launched out their idea, their efforts 3 years ago, I think it's very, very important for the states to join this to actually, gain momentum. And with Telangana now, coming out with its own policy, I believe the adoption would improve and increase at a rapid pace. So we invite the industry in India and abroad to come forward, make Hyderabad as their base for manufacturing operations, as we believe local manufacturing is the key to achieve the price-performance parity and enable faster adoption of electric vehicles. Once again, I thank all the stakeholders who have participated in policy making, who have come forward to invest in the state of Telangana, and I look forward to interacting with you more often and more closely to ensure that Telangana truly becomes the hub for electric vehicles in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing the strategic perspective for manufacturing ecosystem in Telangana. Now we have Mr. Vijay Madhuri to come and give his talk.
Sir, for changing slides, you need to tell the host to change the next slide. Like if you integrate next slide,
Sure.
you will change.
Sure. Honorable Minister KTR Garu, Ajay Garu, Indrakaran Garu, Principal Secretaries Jayesh Ranjan Garu and Sunil Sharma ji, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. Although I have to say it's very tough to speak immediately after KTR Garu and hold the spell of the audience. I'll try to do my best and also keep it short. We are actually promoting a company called Watts and Volts, which is an important stakeholder, we believe, in the shared mobility space, because we are going to be doing the first mile and last mile connectivity that enables people to use not only electric vehicles, but also use public transportation, such as metros and buses. So this enables people to avoid getting crammed into shared autos, especially in view of the current pandemic that we are going through. There is a lot of reluctance to use public transportation because of the fear of getting crammed into shared autos for the first mile and last mile. So we are going 100% electric. We are starting with micro-mobility, with e-bikes, e-mopeds and e-scooters. And we want to keep it as a simple pay and use system that would be available at all the major areas of the city. and with a planned expansion for the rest of the country. It is based in Hyderabad, yes. Of course, it's based in Hyderabad. I also want to thank you, sir, and also commend the state of Telangana for always being pioneers in the areas, not in just in IT and pharma, but also now coming up with these policies on electric vehicles. We also plan to expand soon into Mumbai and Goa, sir, and then cover the other major metros in the in the country. Our partners, majorly Mr. Kedar and Vamsi, we all come from different backgrounds, but we are bound by the IT mantra, and we wanted to start a business that has not just a technology challenge, but also an exponential social impact, which we believe, I think this is exactly the right business, and I couldn't have found a better place to announce the launch of the company. Apart from the three of us, while we were actually looking for other promoters, we are also very lucky to find two celebrity promoters who actually share our vision in terms of what we are trying to do, social impact, and the impact with respect to promoting EVs, with respect to promoting public transportation. One of them is right here, Mr. Vijay Devarkonda, the youth icon and pan-India star. The other gentleman who couldn't join us is Mr. Sunil Shetty. He wanted to join remotely, but he's in a hill station where there is a poor Wi-Fi connection, so he excused himself today. So we are very proud that we'll be launching in early 2021 with Hyderabad as our first base, and then expanding further into Mumbai, Goa, and then other cities. I would like to invite Mr. Vijay Devarkonda to say a few words here about the business and the reason why he sees it as important. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Too many respected leaders of the industry and policymakers here. I cannot wish you all by name, but my regards to all of you present here and present online. I'm from this city, so what's happening here, I love it. While growing up, as a kid, I've always had this opinion that we as a country somehow worked in hindsight. I thought that we always waited for a problem to happen, let it get really serious till it became a deal breaker, and then try and find solutions. But over the last 5-6 years, what I've been seeing governments working with foresight. This state has become like a state of dreams. Like, be it having 24/7 power supply, like my village, my district, we have water which for farming, and people are getting 2 crops a year. There's more money to spend. The land rates have gone up. All this is like magical to us. We haven't seen it in life. Be it T-Hub, be it iPass. Like, these are like few of the 100 things that I'm aware of. And now this Telangana e-vehicle summit, this is like foresight, and I love what is happening. And as you can see, a lot of it has happened under our current Chief Minister KCR Garu's administration, and KTR Anna, congratulations for what all's happening. I've always said we are in good hands. Other than when we have these like extraordinary crippling circumstances like the pandemic or these rains, but I'm sure we'll be well prepared. And as you see, I believe e-vehicles are the future. I'm no expert in this field, but I believe they are the future, and as you can see, I'm betting on it. So watts and volts, early Jan next year, we'll bring a beautiful product, and we hope to add to the clean, better lifestyles of Hyderabad. We hope to add to how beautiful our city is and improve our lifestyles. That's it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the close of the session. Thank you for being such a wonderful virtual and in-person audience. I now hand over you to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan for closing remarks.
I would like to inform members of the audience that from 12:15 onwards, there will be a very interesting virtual panel discussion which will involve very eminent industry leaders like Ms. Sulajja Firodia Motwani of Kinetic Green, Mr. Rahul Bharti of Maruti Suzuki, Mr. A.K. Jindal from Tata, Mr. Pradeep Parameshwaran from Uber, Mr. Priyank Agarwal from Exicon, and Mr. Rohit Vadera from Pure Energy. I would request audience members, if they want to participate and watch the panel discussion from this hall, it will be available on the big screen. Otherwise, you are welcome to watch it online from anywhere. Thank you very much.
Also, kindly note there's lunch being served in executive lounge at 1 o'clock. So kindly stay put and be there for lunch by 1 o'clock or so.